Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? Welcome to Faces of NextGen Live. I am Eric Wells, and I'm the Education Coordinator for NextGen Genealogy Network. My company is Legacy Left Right, and this is the show where twice a month or so I get to sit down and interview a genealogist. It's a lot of fun, and I really enjoy doing it. Today, I am so excited. I get to sit down with Rebecca Zoglmann. Becky, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you.
Yes, you're doing great. You're doing great. How's the day going? Has it been busy? You keeping up with stuff?
I actually got some homework done while my kids were at school, so that was good. But I've just been
Homework?
trying to, well, I do ProGen,
Oh, okay.
so I have assignments for that, and my main time to work on that is when my kids are at school, and I actually have some peace and quiet.
How many kids do you have?
I have two kids. I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's awesome. Well, you kind of sound a little. You're funny. You're like you're not from around these parts.
How did you tell?
So
I'm from
where are you
England.
originally from?
I'm from England. I'm from the East Coast of England, but
Okay.
I don't really have a thick Eastern accent anymore.
So you're like born on the cliffs of Dover,
Up a bit.
crawled out of the English Channel.
A bit more north than that. I'm like on the bit that sticks out, the big
Yeah,
bulge on the side that sticks out.
the pimple of the UK.
I've had it called the armpit of the UK,
Oh,
so
okay. Well, this is since this is all next gen genealogy ran. You're actually a part of next gen, the leadership itself, aren't you?
I
What is
am.
it? What is it you do for next gen genealogy network?
I'm the content coordinator, so
Mhm.
basically I write the blog.
Yeah, yeah. So all of the blog entries that we see are done by you.
Yes, all
Well,
by me.
it's nice to put a face to the text.
Here I am.
And how old are you? Like, you don't have to tell me your specific age, or give me an age range if you want.
I am 28, almost 29.
Yeah. And
Yep.
what do you do for a living?
I am a stay-at-home mum right now.
Well, congratulations. Taking care of two kids, I would imagine, is quite a full-time job, anyways.
Well, I mean, I love it. And I have a bunch of animals I rescue, so we have my little animal kingdom to look after as well. And then I do a little genealogy research for people on the side. So
What kind of animals do you rescue?
mainly cats. I have 5 cats and 1 dog.
5 cats? That's a
There
good
could
thing.
always be more.
You can never have enough cats. Is that what you're saying?
Well, cats don't care. I mean, you just feed them. They come to you when they feel like it. You know, I could have like 5 more cats and not even notice, you know?
Yeah. What was one of the strangest things you've rescued or you brought home?
Well, we have a rescue kitten called Salem, and he was on the kill list at our local shelter. But he's feral. I mean, he was a 1 pound little tiny thing when we brought him home, and he's not a cat. Like, he looks like a cat, but he acts like a dog. He'll take dog treats out of your hand. Like, he fights with our dog. Bear in mind,
He
she
fights
outweighs.
with the dog.
Oh,
Really?
yeah. Like, the dog's 50 pounds heavier, but he'll mess with it. Doesn't even care. Like, the dog puts its head in its mouth. They don't
What?
care. Yeah.
Oh, geez. I remember as a kid growing up, we brought a lot of animals and rescued a lot of animals. And I think that the weirdest one that we managed to bring home was a goat. Like we lived in Los Angeles County, and behind my dad's office building, there were some houses, and all of a sudden he looked out of his window and saw walking across the top of a block wall. He saw a goat walking there. Like, where the heck did this goat come from? So we took it home. That was a goat that we rescued.
I mean, my aim in life, I love pigs. Like, I would love to
Yeah.
rescue a pig. I want chickens because we've already picked up names because they have to be old lady names. So I've
We
already got my
have
chickens planned out and pigs. I'm ready for it.
we had a bunch of chickens growing up too, and all of them looked alike. They were like the gray pebbly and gray and white pebbly ones,
Mhm.
and we had 6 or 7 of them, and every one of them was just Henrietta. I think that's an old
Oh,
lady
see,
name.
that's one of my names.
Oh, cool! It's a good chicken name.
It is. And then Hilda is another one.
Oh, that's great.
And then they have to be old lady names. And Ingrid, which is my husband's grandma,
Uh-huh.
and then Jean, which is my grandma. So I think at least 4 are going to have adorable old lady names.
We had a Rhode Island Red, and her name was Rebecca, oddly enough.
Aww.
So you and an old chicken named share the same name.
I'm quite happy with that. I am more than happy with that.
Well, let's talk a little bit about genealogy. How and when did you first become interested in it?
I was about 17. I always loved history growing up. I mean, the town I lived in and the school I went to were really, really old. So, you're surrounded by it all the time.
Yeah.
But my grandma, she kind of started doing a little bit. She's like, oh, I'm researching the tree. So I thought, oh, I'll have a little look. And so the first night I got on the Ancestry and did, the pay-as-you-go credits and
Right.
burnt through so much money that first night. Because I was like, every time I found a new record, I was like, oh, like I got such like a buzz when I found out, what I wanted, So I tried to help her with that. And then I just kind of took over completely.
It's
like,
addictive.
it is. And I was like, here, Nan, don't you worry about it. I've got it now.
Nan, I got this, Nan. I got this.
Yeah, pretty much.
So you've done your family research. Is there an ancestor that is someone that you would love to meet, like go back in time and meet?
I have a couple. My grandma's dad, he died before I was born. He died in 1975. But like I've always seen the pictures of him.
Mm-hmm.
And when you just see like that little something in your heart, and you're like, I would have loved to have known you.
Yeah.
And he built a doll's house for my mum when she was little, so early 60s. And then I would play with that doll's house.
Oh, wow.
When I was at my grandma's house. And now I have that doll's house, and my daughter plays with it. And so I always love seeing it. And I just wish I could have known him, because he was tiny. He was like 5 foot.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I have a family picture, and all of them are 5 foot. Like, he was tiny. But, he volunteered for the war, for World War II, but then at training camp to go, he stood on a live grenade and blew his foot off.
Really?
So he stayed home, and he was in the Home Guard in England.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, everyone, like my grandma always talks of him and said he was just the sweetest, most gentle man. So, and I kind of look a bit like him. So I always wanted to, he's my main one I'd want to see. But then I have a brick wall ancestor who drives me insane. He is my 3 times great-grandfather, John Donoghue. I mean, that ridiculously common name. And there is no records of Irish people coming over from Ireland to England.
Uh-huh.
So, I don't know where, in all the census things, it just says he was from Ireland. No area.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, really? You
so
couldn't help me
Donoghue or Donoghue?
Yeah, well, I pronounce it Donoghue, because that's how my grandma pronounces it. It's Donoghue.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Donoghue, yeah. I mean, I would love to meet him and sit him down and be like, you need to tell me, because I have wasted so much of my time looking at 10,000 John Donoghues from all over Ireland, and I have no idea which one you are.
What time frame is this? What's your last record on him?
The first record I have on him is 1869, when he married my great-great-great-grandma. And then on all the census records, it says his birth is approximately 1840 in Ireland. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, and I don't know when he came over, because there is also 10,000 John Donoghues in London, the East End of London at the time. There's all the Irish people coming over trying to find work. So yeah, he's my frustration. He's the one person I want to sit down and be like, okay, I'm bringing my notepad. Tell me everything so I don't have to deal with you again.
That'd be cool. Someday, I don't know. I guess if someone in the future actually invents a time machine, they would have been here by now. I don't know. But
Oh,
so it may not be possible.
we can hope. I'm always like hoping. I'm like, maybe
Yeah.
if I just think about it super hard, he'll send me a message in my sleep. I'll wake up with some flash of inspiration. It happened once, and then it turned out to be, complete rubbish. But I still thought there was a small hope in my heart. I was like, oh, could it be? No, it wasn't.
What's
Just
one of the
wishful
most
thinking.
What's one of the most interesting or surprising discoveries you've made in your research?
I have a lot of criminals in my family. I think the one that surprised me the most is one of my great-great-grandmas. I could never find her in the 1901 census, even though it still said her husband was married, not widowed. And randomly, I just came across this record, and it turns out she was in prison at the time. She was in prison for 6 months for stealing a gold watch from a railway company. Yeah. And
6 months?
She was in her 70s when she did it.
Your grandma's awesome. That woman is awesome.
To be fair, they lived in complete poverty. I mean, a lot of my family lived in the East End of London through the whole Victorian times, and it was basically all slums. I mean, they had nothing. It was crime-ridden. They all worked as labourers. They had a lot of children that died, that kind of thing. So I'm pretty sure it was more desperation, trying to feed the kids or grandkids or whatever, than ill intent, I guess.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah, desperation.
Making excuses for her.
Well, do you know if she had any children that were put into the British home child system?
She didn't, surprisingly.
Wow.
Most of them died.
Oh,
Sadly.
well.
There was only like 2 or 3 that survived, and
Wow.
I mean, she didn't go to prison until she was in her 70s, so all her children were grown by then,
Yeah. A 70-year-old going to prison. Like, what is she gonna do? Just sit there and think about, I don't know, what is she gonna do in prison? It's not like she's gonna learn a lesson.
I think they did labor, like they had to do hard labor, which isn't really much, but a lot of it was tedious, like unraveling rope and stuff like that.
Oh,
like
okay.
very similar to what they would do like in a workhouse, to earn a little money to stay the night and that kind of thing.
Got it.
I mean, she didn't die till 1920 something, so it obviously didn't scar her that badly.
Yeah. So do you have any favorite books, genealogy books or otherwise, that you'd want to share with the folks who will be watching this in the future?
You can probably guess that London is my big passion.
Uh-huh.
So one of my favorite books, it's called The People of the Abyss, and it's by an author called Jack London, and he was...
I love Jack London.
He was an American that visited London, and he went around to the East End, and he kind of tried to fit in, and he met a lot of people, and there's photos and stuff, and he just describes the East End slums. Because I try to find out everything I can. I mean, kind of have a soft spot, I guess, for the East End slums, because that's where all my family lived. So it's kind of nice, like, and the pictures in the book, because I don't have any pictures of that far back. So I'm always like, when I see the pictures, I'm like, there's a small chance that could be an ancestor of mine. I can hold out hope, like.
Yeah. Any other books that you like to recommend?
Well, I not recommend per se, but like I read a lot of spooky books, I guess. I'm not really into like horror, but I guess it's my inner goth and like going around cemeteries and stuff that means I like spooky books. So I read a lot of James Herbert. He's kind of like a spooky horror kind of writer.
I've never heard of James Herbert.
I mean, some of his books are a bit twisted. He's a bit like Stephen King, but not as scary, I guess.
All right.
Yeah.
What about research? Like, where would you love to sit down? Where do you normally love to sit down and research? Just like it's peaceful and it's fun and you get a lot of stuff done.
I actually like going to the bigger archives because I feel like you have a bit more room to spread out. You know, if you're in a courthouse, it can be so claustrophobic. So I like the Georgia archives.
Mm-hmm.
It's really big. But then when I was back home, I loved the London Metropolitan Archive because
Oh,
I
wow.
always found anything I wanted about my family.
Yeah.
You know, I have a million different surnames to choose from when I go there. You know, so that was my all-time favorite place. Obviously, I haven't been there for years, but I hope to one day go back, maybe by myself, for like a week and just spend the whole week there. See if they'll let me take a sleeping bag in there. You know, don't mind me.
I don't think that they are. It might be like it turned into like a night in the museum type of thing or something.
I'm small enough, I think I could hide, like in a bookcase or something.
You
Disguise myself with a few books.
are you 5 foot as well?
Yes.
Really?
Yep.
All right.
Everyone in my family is short, so
Melanie, Shamrock Genealogist, says you should do a sleepover at the National Archives with kids.
oh, I would, but I don't like kids.
Well, your kids.
I have kids. Oh, with my kids. Oh yeah, I'd take my kids.
No, just
But
take any random kid. Just go, pull up to a high school, or like not high school, like a junior high, and take some kids with you the next. No.
I think that would probably get me arrested.
I think so too.
There's a crazy British lady trying to solicit us to go to some place with her. I'm good.
So, is London like your main area of interest that you like researching on, or is there something else?
It is. I mean, obviously now I live here, it's a bit more difficult. But like that will always be my main passion because of my family history there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my family,
Yeah.
some of my branches have lived there 300 years, you know,
Wow.
so it's and I guess it's kind of cliche to say it's in my blood, but it is. You know, my grandparents still live there. I spent a lot of my childhood there, you know, so it's always got really special memories for me as well, you know,
Yeah.
and I love the Victorian times too.
How often do you head back there?
I haven't been back yet.
No. Wow.
I've been here almost 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't been back yet. It's the flights are just ridiculously expensive, you know.
Okay. No.
And if I go, I wouldn't want to go by myself, you know.
Right.
I'd want to take my kids with me, and when they're a lot older, I'm planning to take them and give them a whirlwind tour, you know, for London and where I grew up and stuff.
That would be fantastic. Are there other areas that you like researching on that you want to learn more about?
There is now the city I live in, Noonan, it's got a very rich Civil War history, and obviously Atlanta does too. And where I live is only 30 minutes south of Atlanta. So I'm starting to learn more about the Civil War records. And because in England we don't learn about the Civil War. Like
Really? I
mean,
we don't learn much about England after the 18th century.
exactly. I mean, so we have so much other stuff going on in England that the American Civil War doesn't even come up on our curriculum, you know. So it's been a bit of a learning curve. And I feel like there's so much to learn.
Right.
Because of so many battles and stuff. So
Yeah.
It's been interesting because the town I live in wasn't really touched. It was used as a hospital town. So there is still a lot of Civil War era buildings here. And there is people here are very proud of like their Confederate soldiers. There is a ton of Confederate graveyards and cemeteries still in pristine condition here.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm surrounded by it. So it's something I want to understand more, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Now, do you take clients on as a genealogist?
I take the odd client here and there. I mean, I'm so busy at the moment with ProGen
Sure.
that if it's a smaller project or just something they need a little help with, I have no problem helping them on. But I'm hoping, so I finished ProGen in December, so I'm aiming for next year to start taking people on more full-time. But right now I just don't have the time between assignments and kids, and you know what I mean?
Right. Got it. And so we talked about time machines earlier, if you could take a time machine and head back, meet your old self, and tell her, hey, you really should look into focusing on this more with your genealogy, what would that be? What would you want to tell your younger self?
Don't copy other people's trees.
Amen. Words to live by.
Yes, because as I went back, the more I learned about genealogy and sources and stuff like that, the more I went back, I was like, Becky, what were you thinking? Like, how did you think this made sense? You know, like, these
Yeah.
clearly not the same people.
Right. Right.
You know, why did you just haphazardly just think, oh, that'll do? And I mean, I see it all the time. I know it's a huge issue, especially on sites like Ancestry.
Right.
And I'm thinking, this isn't right. Like, and I see people who have some of my family members in their tree, and I'm with the wrong dates or the wrong spouses, and I'm like, you just copied. You like you are wrong.
Yeah, and if you evaluate your whether or not to take on that tree, you kind of sometimes people or I as when I was first doing it, I would evaluate like how many other people have the same information as a form of evidence that it was true, and then I realized, like what you're saying, that a wrong relationship could spread like a virus throughout the rest of those trees.
Oh yeah, and the worst thing is when you click, because now I don't even bother to look at other people's trees really. I
Yeah,
might have it a quick glance just to see, but it's the worst thing is when you look at that and you see the same person that you're researching has 2 or 3 different death dates,
right.
different locations, different spouses, and I'm thinking, do I bother to message these people and say it's wrong, or am I just fighting a losing battle? You
Yeah,
know, like if it's not my direct family member, then I'm usually just let it go, because as much as I want to, I can't be ancestry police and like try and correct everyone, you know. It's
yeah.
only if it's like direct family I know really, really know and can prove that they're wrong. I mean, a lot of them are like, okay, thanks, and then don't change it. I mean, not much you can really do then, you know.
If Ancestry called you up in the next few days and said, "Hey, we'd like to hire you as a policeman," would you take them on? Take them up
Sure,
on it?
sure. I'd love that.
Yeah.
Bossing people around. Change it. Change it, otherwise you get a fine. And the fine goes up the longer you ignore my message.
Teresina asks that she's learned that even if info is on the wrong trees or is wrong on the trees, if the person sometimes have a resource that is good. Have you ever seen that? Like, have you ever? And I know I've seen that, like pick and choose the resources, but
Yeah, I mean, I've got to the point now that I'm more just concerned with my own tree. Like,
right,
I can only do so much, so I just would rather my tree or trees are accurate and I know they're accurate and can prove and back it up with sources than, you know what I mean? I'm just doing me.
well, that's good.
Yeah,
I guess that's all you can really focus or be accountable for.
exactly. I'm like, no one else is going to know my family better than me at this
Right.
point, you know? So at least I know I can recite death dates. Like, if you think, I had one guy who had my great grandpa, and he had the right birth date, but then he had him marrying some really random person,
Oh,
but then the same death date. And I messaged him and I said, you know, blah blah blah, sorry, but I know you're wrong. Basically, he just, because you know my granddad's still alive, and this was his
right.
dad, this was his parents. I'm like, I know this is wrong. He's like, okay, thanks. This is obviously just a difference of opinion.
Opinion? Oh my
Okay
gosh.
then,
Okay.
my opinion's right.
Well, you have like sources and
Oh yeah, I
people.
have like
It's like,
pages of
why should
sources,
one? Yeah,
I have pages of sources, and then I'm
yeah,
first-hand knowledge with my granddad knowing everything, and having copies of everything. So I was like, you can't please everyone.
yeah.
If that's how
Now,
you feel.
do you go to do you attend conventions? Is what I'm trying to say.
Not right now, mainly because childcare limitations.
Sure.
But I'm hoping, I'm aiming in the next couple of years once they're a little bigger. I mean, Roots Tick is coming up, so that's a big one I would love to go to. Like, I'm hoping
It's
that's going to be like my first one, like a big blowout,
yeah,
and then go to the smaller ones throughout the year. But that's like my main one I want to go to, just to dip my toes in, shall we say. Start it all with a bang.
that would be a good one to go to. Your first
It
one
would.
might be a little bit overwhelming. I remember going, like my first convention was just a local Ozarks genealogy convention, and maybe 200 people showed up or something. And then I went to Roots Tech, and I was like, whoa, there's thousands of people here. It's amazing.
See, I'm used to walking through London, and London is
Oh, yeah, yeah.
packed tight, you know? So, I mean, I'm not a big fan of crowds, but I can deal with them if
Mhm.
I need to. So I don't think it'd be that bad. And then, I mean, I went to the Atlanta Falcons game a few weeks ago, and you will never see a crowd like that trying to get out of one door. So I'm
Oh,
like, if I can handle that, I can handle a convention with thousands of people.
that sounds horrible. I want to know that if something were to happen, I would be able to get out. And those situations sound horrible.
Oh, we wouldn't be. I was planning on like crowd surfing over people because it was, I mean, you were packed tight trying to, I mean, imagine, 30,000 people trying to get out of one door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, where can people find you on the internet?
They can find me. I have a website, which is rjzgenealogy.com, that has my blog on there too.
Uh-huh.
Um, I'm also on social media. I have a Facebook page, which is RJZ Genealogy, and I'm on Instagram as well with the same thing. I'm also on Twitter, but I don't really use that as much. I
Sure.
probably should, but I'm
So
old.
you use Instagram a lot then
I
mostly.
do. I love using Instagram. I'm a very visual person.
Ah,
So
okay.
I love taking photos of things, and making it interesting. Because you can attach. I love finding like photos of old records. There's always like a
Yeah, yeah.
story behind it.
Hmm.
That's my favorite one to use.
Well, awesome. I'll have all those links in the video description, and so people will be able to find you and check out your blog and follow you on Instagram if they so choose. And I hope they do. I hope they
I
do.
think so too.
Yeah. Well, this has been a great interview. Thank you so much for sitting down and talk with me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to say before we sign off?
That'll be it.
Okay. All right. Well, Becky, thanks again. And everyone who's watching, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. We got some good questions in the chat, and we will have another interview coming up in 2 weeks, and I'll be interviewing George Morgan. He's a good friend of mine, just like Becky is a good friend of mine too. And until next time, guys, be safe and have a good time, and I will see you later. All right, goodbye.